Going live. Switching. Greetings, chess players, and welcome back to Good We Are Live. Welcome back to the free online summer chess camp, the June edition. Once again, my name is Chris Torres. This is Daily Chess Musings. I'm the organizer of Daily Chess Musings. The website, the YouTube channel, the chess club that just passed 2,000 members. Wow, that's just made me so happy. 2,000 members in less than a year. That's quite a pace, quite a pace. And today I'm super honored, super happy to be joined by my good friend James Eade. If you're a fan of the show, if you've done any of our events with us, you know who this man is and what he brings to the table. But those of you who are new, and we do have a lot of new players in this camp, and that's wonderful. James Eade is an exceptionally strong chess player, first of all. He is a FIDE master, which is a very, very hard title to attain. He's just one of the best chess players you're going to meet. But that's just the start for him. Beyond that, he's served on the boards of FIDE, the United States Chess Federation. FIDE is the World Chess Federation. He ran a chess publishing company and published books from many different authors, including his own. And he ran the strongest chess tournament in the history of San Francisco. My goodness, he's done so many things, and of course he wrote his most famous book was my first book, and that was Chess for Dummies, which is just such a good foundational book. It got me started in the right direction, and I continue to gift copies of that book to many students each and every year. But before we get going with our lesson, and I'm really excited to see what Jim's going to be teaching us today, I wanted Jim to talk about his foundation. So take it away, James.
Oh, thank you, Chris. What a nice introduction. Yeah, I started out, I played my first tournament game in 1972, and no one gets any extra credit for guessing why. That was when Bobby Fischer won the world championship. And Bobby Fischer was my hero growing up. He got me started playing chess, and I started out in at 15. That's a rather advanced age to start to play chess. These days, we've really improved on reaching out into the schools and starting kids off at younger and younger ages because people think that chess is so complicated. But I tell the parents, I ask parents, do you play chess? And they say, oh no, it's too complicated. And your son plays chess, your daughter plays chess, your kids can play. I think you could play too. But so the motivation behind writing Chess for Dummies was to demystify something that seemed too complicated. That's the purpose of all the For Dummies books. You take a complicated subject and you make it understandable. And that's the goal that I have had throughout my career at after I started playing chess competitively, because when I was in high school, I was the highest rated high school player in all of New England, and I won adult tournaments as well as scholastic type tournaments. Um, but then I went to college, I took a little hiatus from tournament play, but I uh, kept my feet in with correspondence play. In those days, we actually sent postcards to each other. So I represented the United States in team matches against other countries, and I really loved that. Turns out that I really loved team competitions. My high school chess team, that was a special, special time for me. And the USS Amateur Team East was one of my favorite tournaments to play in because it's a team competition. But chess, by and large, is a one-on-one sport. And I say the word sport because there's an element of sport in chess. There's an element of science in chess, and there's an element of art in chess. But you need a foundation to build on before you can appreciate the art of chess. Some of us talk about that was a beautiful move. And if you don't know anything about chess, you think, what are you talking about? He moved this piece to that square. So, but if you understand how surprising a move can be, how unanticipated a move can be. And then you see, all of a sudden you have this aha experience and you go, oh, I see the idea, I see it. And that's such a pleasurable experience. And it's about the aesthetic value of the move. It's beauty. And so chess players of a certain strength can understand that chess gives you so much. And when you learn as a young player, I tell you, when you give the gift of a chess to a child, it's a gift that can last a lifetime. Early on, we do it in the schools now because we can convince the administrators, the principals and things like that, that the skills they acquire in chess are directly relatable, transferable back into the classroom. The ability to sit still and think, not every child has that. The ability to postpone immediate gratification, not every child has that. And you learn if you move your queen out too soon, it gets attacked and you have to waste time moving it again and again and again. So you can't do exactly what you want right away because your opponent gets a turn too. So then you have to think about planning and what classes help you in learning how to plan. And you learn self-discipline. You can't get too excited or too down in chess. Chess teaches you these lessons that can last you a lifetime. Whatever you end up doing, these are foundational skills that will help you whatever you do in life. And it's a pleasant pastime as an adult. You know, you can just go to a coffee shop or one another's home and you can play a game of chess and just have fun. And I really emphasize the word fun because we have these chess competitions and people are really serious and they're really, it looks like it's really tense. But, when you're playing with a buddy who might beat you, you might beat them, it's just fun. And you can talk trash to each other and you just have a good time. And as you get older, when you get to like my age, you start thinking about hospital bills and doctor appointments. And when you're playing chess, all of that goes away. You're not thinking about anything else. All your troubles go away. And you're just having fun playing chess. And if you find someone around your strength, you can have more fun playing chess than Kasparov and Karpov did, beating their heads against each other year after year after year in serious competitions. Was that fun for them? I doubt it. But it can be fun for you for your entire lifetime. And it doesn't matter how big you are, how small you are, what country you're from, what language you speak, the color of your skin. None of that matters. It's 64 squares and the pieces that are on them. And there's a defined boundaries, there's a defined set of rules that you all play by. So it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, if you're really tough on the football field, or just the water boy taking up water to the players. It doesn't matter in chess. The water boy could be a much better chess player than the star quarterback on your team. So, all of these things makes chess very, very special. And so much has been written about chess that when you open a chess book about uh, games played in the past, they come alive. And you start to appreciate the history of chess, the culture of chess. We have our own little language too. We talk about there's files and ranks. Well, most people think of them as columns, and they have different terminology. We have our own special terminology. So we talk to each other and they don't quite understand what we're saying. If I say I play E4, well, someone who doesn't play chess says, huh? What does that mean? And we can even talk to each other about a chess game without a chessboard in front of us. We can say, did you see, do you know what the Re Lopez is? No. E4, E5, NF3, Knight C6, B, B5. Oh, that's the Reed Lopez? Yeah, that's what we call the Reed Lopez. And the naming conventions in chess, who knows how we came up with some of them. They're just, you just accept them. You just, because the Reed Lopez, that what we call the Reed Lopez is called the Spanish game in other parts of the world. So it really doesn't matter what you call it once you understand the moves and the why you play those moves. And then we get into good move versus bad move. Some moves are very good, some moves not so good. And some moves are outright mistakes. And in chess, we call those blunders. And if you look at a game score, you'll see an exclamation point means excellent move. An exclamation point followed by a question mark means interesting, not sure. My question mark exclamation point is interesting but dubious. We don't think it's good. And just a question mark means mistake. So we have our own language that we speak. And then, so we have our own community. And if you're part of a community, you're never alone. And if you can connect to the internet as you are now, you can play anyone, anywhere, anytime. I didn't have that when I was a kid, when I was growing up. It's amazing because it doesn't matter what country you're from, it doesn't matter what language you speak. You're playing the same game with someone and they could be anywhere in the world. Fascinating. Chess is the killer app for the internet. And a little bit more about myself. After I got back in following graduation from college, I was one of the top 10 players overall in New England. And I came out to California, and there were a lot of strong players in California that didn't have that kind of competition in New England. And I became a master. And so, okay, now I've mastered the game of chess. Am I done? Oh no. There were so many players better than I was, even though I was a master. I was a better player than most, by far. And but there's still all these guys who were better than me. I couldn't believe it. I'm a master. What does that mean? That means I know a lot. But no matter how much you only know a little without chess. And it turns out that there are stronger players than masters. And FIDE, the world governing organization that Chris mentioned, has three titles well, more than that now, but three titles that when I was trying to get them: the Grandmaster, best of all, International Master, and FIDE Master. And so what I did, I set a goal for myself, and I said, I'm going to get to be a FIDE Master, FM, because anywhere I go in the world, they'll know I'm a master. If I get a national master title, which I did, that's only known about in the United States. But what if I travel? What if I go to Paris and I go to a Paris Chess Club and they say, what's your rating? They're talking about a FIDE rating. They're not talking about a USCF rating. So I made it a goal to get a FIDE rating and to get a FIDE title. And I got the FM. And then, so what is an FM? Well, an FM is strong enough to fight with grandmasters over the board, but usually ends up losing. But we can give them a tough fight. And they don't necessarily bring their B game against a FIDE master. They got to bring their A game. And if they bring their A game, they'll win. But if they bring their B game, they're in for trouble. So every now and then when I would sit down to play a grandmaster, I would say, hey, maybe today is the day he brings his B game. And so I just had that little bit of confidence. Okay, sure. If he brings his A game, I'm toast. But if he brings his B game, maybe he only brings his B game once a month. Well, maybe it's today. And maybe it's against me. So always be optimistic when you sit down. Don't get intimidated by your opponent, however strong they are, however big they are. Never get intimidated by your opponent. Have confidence in yourself. And we have ratings to judge us of relative strength. But anybody can win on any given day. And maybe today is your day. Who knows? So when you sit down, don't give up before the game begins. Be ready to play your best. Bring your best. Bring your A game, and we'll see what happens. But when I got to the FM title, I realized that to become an IM and to become a GM, and again, this is like 40 years ago, um, I would have to travel. I would have to travel to Europe, but I had to earn money. You know, I had to have a career. So I got a career, and I earned money. I spent my time um, making the most of my career to do what I could do in the field that I was in, which is computer science. And, you know, I kept playing chess, correspondence chess, and I had a Santa Clara chess club that I would walk to every Monday night. So always stuck around. And then I kept good enough, not I was never quite as good as I was when I was really concentrating on chess. But even as a part-time, what we call a weekend warrior, I could show up at a big tournament, a national open, for example, a US Open or something like that. And my goal was to get behind the line, behind the ropes. Because if you're getting behind the ropes, everybody can see who you're playing and who they're playing. And so I'd been paired usually against a very strong player. Walter Brown, for example, I played three times. Joel Benjamin, I played once. Nick DeFremian, I played three times. And so these are the opportunities for me to play against somebody better than I was, and to kind of see, could I give him a good fight? That was really what I was after. And when I would get a long game and ended up in a draw, they weren't so happy, but I was very happy. So that was my playing career. And when I started to ended my career earning money, I decided I was going to give back to chess because it helped me so much when I was young. I would go to tournaments and there would be older people like my dad's age, my grandparents' age, and they were interested in me because I was a good chess player and up and coming, and they would kind of give me adult advice. And it was an intergenerational thing that I loved. I absolutely ate it up. You would be around somebody who had much more life experience than you, and you would be about the same rating. So they would take you seriously, and you might even go in between rounds, go to lunch with them. And the things that they would talk about weren't the kinds of things that I would talk about with someone my age. It was a great experience for me. And those are the days where you had to travel to go play in a tournament. Chess is more popular now than it was then, and you can find tournaments in many more places than you could. And now, after being shelter in place for over a year, we've been playing on the internet mostly, and it doesn't matter what time of day it is. It might be some time of day where someone it can't fall asleep in Norway and is on a weird time, and you're on at the same time, and you can play. So it's wonderful. But I got into organizing, organizing chess tournaments. And when you get into organizing chess tournaments, you find out that there are chess organizations that sometimes govern what you can do and what you can't do. For example, in the U.S., the U.S. Chess Federation is the national governing organization. So you have to follow certain rules. And if you want to organize an event that will qualify or let you get rated, you have to have a tournament director, for example, someone that's certified by the United States Chess Federation, that they are qualified to run a tournament according to the USCF standards. But if you try to run a FIDE event, now you have to follow the USCF rules, but you also have to follow the FIDE rules. And if you want to create a norm event, for example, someone gets an IM title or a norm for an IM title because they need three, at least they did in my day. And if you want them to get a norm, then you have to have certain level of players from multiple federations. You can't have them with just US players. So you have to import players from other countries to represent other federations. And then you have to get them all together in the same place at the same time to play each other. So these turns out to be a real organizational, logistical taxing thing to pull off. But I liked it and I did it. And as Chris mentioned, I organized the strongest tournament that's ever been played in San Francisco, and it was won by Viktor Korchnoi, who challenged Anatoly Karpov for the world championship. He was probably, many people think he was the strongest player to never win the world championship. And it was my pleasure to meet him and to watch games that he played. So, a couple of weeks of being around the Victor Korchnoys, the Robert Hubners, and the Nick DeFermians, and the John Nuns, and all these people from different countries who I had never met, but I got to meet. Jie Jun, who was the women's world champion at the time, was from China. I got to get to meet her. So organizing was really important, but I was always dealing with these chess organizations. And so I got involved with the California Chess, which was Cal Chess, the Northern California Chess Organization, because that was the affiliate to the United States Chess Federation. So if you wanted to get any rules passed in the United States Chess Federation, you had to go through Cal Chess. So I had a friend who was president of the Cal Chess, and so he got me involved. I got on the board. I became vice president and then president. I was president of Cal Chess for a while, and then I became president of the Chess Journalists of America because I was reading and writing a lot about chess, and writing about chess became a passion for me. And it was one of those things that you follow your passion, whatever leads you in life, and you're not going to work. You're going to be doing what you want to do. Now, sometimes we don't have that choice, but if you do have that choice to follow your passion, I strongly urge you to do that. Follow your passion. The first thing is to discover what you're passionate about. Sometimes it just falls in your lap and you go, wow, this is great. I love this. And then you get the skill set, you acquire the skill set so that you can have value in the marketplace and people will want you to bring your skill set to work for them. And then you can pick and choose. Well, I offered this job in Pennsylvania, but it's like I don't want to live in Pennsylvania, but I'm offered this job in San Diego. San Diego, I can live there. Okay, I'll take the job in San Diego. So you give yourself the power of choice. So acquire the skill set. That's what I did in chess. That's what I did in computer science. And you can also follow whatever interests you. Whatever you're into, follow that on the side. But there's only certain things that are going to earn you a living. So you have to develop a marketable skill set in that as well. But on the side, you can be following your passion. And there's many ways to be happy in this lifetime. And there's many ways to earn money. And if you can combine the two, you're one of the lucky ones. So being president of both the Cal Chess and the the Cal Chess and the Chess Journalists of America got me into contact with a lot more people. And so I started to go to the United States Chess Federation annual meetings. And I was a delegate from Cal Chess from Northern California. And so then I met a lot more people. And these are the people that wrote the rule book, for example. And if you wanted to modify the rule book, you had to talk to them. And there was all sorts of meetings. Oh my goodness. You spend the whole week there going from one meeting to another because there's all sorts of things. You think chess is a simple game. We've got simple rules. Just what could be so controversial? Well, one of the things I remember is what is the penalty in a scholastic event if a player castles but touches the rook first? Oh my goodness, there was a lot of discussion about that. Some people were very passionate. There should be no penalty. Some were very passionate that there should be a penalty. And it's touch move in chess. So they had a point. You touch the rook, got to move the rook. And that doesn't mean you can castle. You have to move the rook. And if you point that rule out, it's frustrating to learn it. But you only have to learn it once. Like if you put your hand on a hot stove and it burns you and you take your hand away, you're probably not going to have to learn that lesson too many times. You're going to say, oh, don't put your hand on a hot stove. So sometimes the lessons that we learn are painful. They might hurt a little bit. They might sting. But then we learn not to do the things that cause us pain. So it's a good learning experience. And instead of being frustrated, just think, hmm, well, I've learned something new today. I can't do this if I want to get better at that. And if you want to get better at chess, you have to follow the rules. One of the things that separates a good chess player from a not so good chess player isn't just their skill set, it's the character as well. You have to be disciplined. You have to have integrity. Now, there's always exceptions. You'll always find like some of these people trying to get their grandmaster titles are cheating and they're using little phones in the bathroom stalls and things like that. There are always going to be people like that. Don't be one of them. Be one of the people that plays by the rules, has honor, integrity, and then you will find that most people are like that, and most people will respect you for being like that. And you will make friends. You will make friends that last a lifetime. I know I did. And so this is also something that I try to teach that when I talk to principals or administrators throughout the school systems, this is what you're teaching your child. This is why you want chess to be part of your school. And if it's after school, fine. But really, we're working on getting it into the curriculum, because it teaches so much in so many levels that influence so many aspects of our lives, even if we never play another game of chess after age 21, which often happens. People, get to a certain point in life and other things are more interesting, and that's fine. But you've learned the skill set. You've learned integrity matters. You've learned self-discipline. You've learned to postpone immediate gratification. And you've learned to sit still and think. That is so important in life. Because if you follow your first impulse all of the time, you will make mistake after mistake. But if you're disciplined and plan and can see what's come, if I do this, they'll do that. And that's not good for me. So you get that skill set, you will make better choices wherever you are in life. But after I started going to these delegates meetings and started talking to these people, they started to know who I was. And apparently, when I ran for a national election, first for the chess journalist presidency, that was a nationwide election. I got elected to be president of that. Then I ran for the executive board of the United States Chess Federation. And I got elected to that. So all of a sudden, a lot of my interest was in chess organizations and how we can influence them. But what I found, and after I did the national one, I was assigned to represent the United States in FIDE, and so I went to Greece and to Turkey, and places like that in order to represent the United States in the World Governing Organization. Following that experience, I realized that these organizations are very difficult to move. They're pretty set in their ways, and people have a way of thinking like, well, we've always done it this way. Why change? And like that's why the internet was so amazing to me, because the organizations weren't very quick to adapt to it because they like to do it the way they've always done it. And so all of a sudden, organizations not affiliated with the United States Chess Federation, not affiliated with FIDE, were springing up. And there's even this guy who runs this site, Chess Daily Musings, something like that. I can't remember. Chris, what was the name of that guy? What was it?
Daily Chess Musings. Yep.
Daily Chess Musings. Yep. Okay, so there's all sorts of opportunities for all sorts of people to get their clubs going, get their YouTube videos out there. So there's all sorts of chess instruction that I could have only dreamed about when I was starting out playing. I couldn't even imagine the opportunity to learn and the opportunity to play all these different people from all these different countries. And oh my goodness, I would have been ecstatic. But I grew up when I grew up, and you're growing up in a very different world, and the organizations were slow to adapt. So what did I do? I got a little frustrated with them. But there was also this other organization, the U.S. Chess Trust. Now, the U.S. Chess Trust is a charity. That means you donate your money to the charity to do something that you believe in. And one of the programs of the U.S. Chess Trust was to give chess sets and boards to schools that otherwise could not afford them. So that appealed to me. I really like that. So I joined that organization as a trustee in 2000. In 2005, I became the treasurer. In 2010, I became the president. And so I was president until 2019. And one of the things that, again, I got frustrated because we were getting all these requests for help from, but they were outside the United States. And our mission, our charter in the U.S. Chess Trust was only the United States. So then I said, well, what can I do about that? Well, heck, why don't I start my own foundation? I'll call it the Eade Foundation because that's my last name. So I'll call it the Eade Foundation and I'll serve those requests by myself if I have to. And so I'm in four different countries in Africa, Uganda, Bhutan, Zambia, and South Africa and Cape Town. We started programs in Nicaragua, and we're also helping in the United States. We've funded programs in Virginia. We've given awards to people in Texas. We've done things in California. Like last year, we sponsored the Northern California online chess championship. And so there's a lot of things, and what our mission is for chess literacy, the ability to read and write chess, and chess excellence to get as good as you want to get. We can just help you get started. But the real reason that we're trying to do this is that no matter where you are, no matter what language you speak, if you are playing chess, you form a community. And a community that you form means you're never alone. And this is the thing. Sometimes people fall into despair. They feel like they don't have the resources they need to survive or to thrive, and they have to, think about how am I going to live day to day? How am I going to get food today? Well, these people aren't going out and buying chess sets. So send them the chess sets. If you have them, which I do, or I have access to people that have them. And how do I get it to them? Well, this is a distribution problem. So I've been working on that. Well, guess what? If you have a problem, what's right behind the problem? A solution. So don't give up when you're faced with a problem. Find the solution. So the first time I did my distribution to Africa, it was too expensive. I can't keep doing this. So I found another manufacturer, another distributor, half the price. Oh, that's sustainable. I can afford that. So now all of these people who could not buy chess sets and boards for themselves have chess sets and boards. Sometimes I send a clock, sometimes I send two clocks, but only if they are thinking about getting into tournament play, if they really want to, because clocks are expensive and clocks sometimes break, but the chess sets, we tournament regulation chess sets, but they're plastic, roll up boards, they really they last. They last a long time. And you can have, 10 chess sets and boards and 20 kids playing chess in Uganda. This is amazing to me. And that I could do this by myself. And then there's some people that help me. One of them's named Chris. And that they let me talk about my foundation, my work. And my foundation is a nationally registered charity. So if you donate to me, you can write it off your taxes if people still do that. But the point is that I absorb all of the administrative costs. So every dollar you donate to my federation goes eventually to somebody like those orphan kids in Uganda that know how to play chess now. Somebody like that, they go directly into the programs, the Eade Foundation. So there's no overhead skimming off the top. I take care of all of that myself, but I need donations in order to help those. I call it help me, help them. And that's the purpose of the foundation. But all of what I've been talking about is based on a love of the game, a love of the game. And I can't pass it on to someone, but I can introduce them to them. And if they have that love of the game after being exposed to it, after being introduced to it, then they'll take it from there. And if they go, not for me, I like backgammon. I like table tennis. I like, or what we call ping pong. I like soccer, or what the rest of the world calls football. Um, fine. It's good. I just want you to be introduced to the game. You decide whether it's for you or not, and you decide how far you want to go in it. And it doesn't matter to me what your rating is. It doesn't matter to me what your title is. And it doesn't matter to me if you want to be a rocket scientist instead. But I want kids exposed to chess. I want to popularize the game. And that's the total purpose of the Foundation, to build communities through chess. So, Chris, what's on next on the agenda here?
Well,
Thank you for the
yeah,
opportunity.
no problem. You got through, so many of the questions I was thinking about asking you. But we missed one, and you mentioned it, maybe twice, and that is this Sunday is Father's Day, and your father introduced you to chess, and you have a yearly award for him. Did you want to quickly tell us how you were introduced to chess and the role your father played in your life, introducing you, getting that
Thank you, Chris.
passion? Because Father's Day is this Sunday. I think it would be a really timely message.
Thank you for that opportunity. Yes, my dad taught me to play chess. My brother, my dad, and I would play after dinner, and he was who could beat both of us. So he would beat one and then beat the other, and then sometimes I would play my brother. But basically, it was kind of like after dinner what we did, and so then I had a what to me was a devastating knee injury, but basically it just meant I couldn't ski one winter, and uh, I and I had to I was just couldn't get around, and so he came home with a chess book, and it was a used bookstore, and it cost him 25 cents, but it was My System by Aaron Nimzovich, and it changed my life. Now, he had taught me to read chess moves, and so I opened up this book, and this man who really played in the 1920s, that time frame. Um, that's when my system came out in the 1920s. Had such a passion for the game; it just oozed off the pages. And he would say, if your opponent has a passed pawn, you must keep it under lock and key. He wasn't just like saying, prevent the pass pawn from advancing. It was like using language that I really related to and got inspired by. And so this was the idea, that you know I got that bug that I wanted to get better at chess, and I just devoured that. And he kept coming home from the used bookstore with another book, another book, and another book. My knee eventually got better, but I was still playing chess. I was still studying chess. And so when I played, I was a freshman in high school. I played my first game. I was 15, and I did okay in my first Scholastic, but I didn't win it. And so I played, um, and I started to beat my dad. And so my dad is the type of person that says, "Oh, I'm not going to play him after dinner if he's beaten me." So he hooked me up with another math professor at North Adams State College, And that professor would come by, pick me up, and take me to the North Adams State College chess club. So now I'm 15 years old, but I'm playing either chess professors at the college or students at the college. And then I started getting good. I started out as not one of the strongest players, and I became one of the strongest players in that club. And then I got unleashed on the rest of the world, is the way some of them felt, because I got better. And there was C players and B players there, um, and I got better than them. I became an A player. By the time I was from my freshman year, I became an A player by the junior year, and my senior year I was the highest rated player in high school. But it was my dad that got me started. My dad's name was Arthur. So the Eade Foundation sponsors the Arthur Award for Best Essay. We do this every year. The first prize, the prize is $1,000, and we give to the best essay for how would you go about advancing the mission of the Eade Foundation? What are you going to do that's consistent with the mission of the Eade Foundation? And last year's winner was Alexi Root from the University of Texas at Dallas, and she's going to write a book about all of the U.S. women champions, all of them. She's going to give games, all the pictures. Right now, she's going to like the John White collection in Cleveland to find old photos that may not be accessible. And she's doing a lot of research, a lot of travel around this, and she needed some expense money. So perfect marriage. So that's really, really the what one of the aspects of why I wanted to honor my dad for getting me started. He gave me a gift that lasted me a lifetime, and he's passed away now, but every year I can give him a reward. The deadline is his birthday, and the deadline for me making a decision is my birthday. So it's the end of January for submissions, and the end of March for me making a decision. And last year, I delegated it to another board member, and then I reviewed her selections and I approved the. So now I'm trying to get out of reading all of them, get someone else to read them all, and then give me the few that she thinks is best, he or she thinks is best, and then I pick from there. So, this is the other thing that I forgot to talk about was part of what I was getting into when I was writing. And I started a chess publishing company. And my idea was to publish chess books, but electronically. This is the early 90s, and it's when floppy disks, I don't know if any of your viewers can remember floppy disks, but they had gone from 5.25-inch floppies to 3.5-inch floppies. And it was just enough storage space for an entire book. So what was my goal? Publish the books so I owned the content. I had trademark rights to it, copyrights to it. And then I could transpose the writing into a computer program that could display it on a monitor so that you could just page through it on your monitor. Now, I thought this was a really good idea. And it was, because it was such a good idea that this company in Germany called ChessBase came out before I was ready. And ChessBase was doing everything I wanted to do and more and better. Great idea, a little slow on the execution. ChessBase was followed by Nick Base from the Netherlands, and it turns out that two of those guys had broken up. They had started together and they broken up, and so ChessBase hit, New in Chess, and I was just saying, okay, I missed the boat by that much, or I would have been the ChessBase.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. No regrets in life. Just look forward. What's next? So my next thing was I wrote one of the books that I published about the tournament that I ran in San Francisco. And I had written another little opening monologue about my play of the McCutcheon variation of the French defense. And I included all my games and all illustrative games. And so I had two books already. And I noticed this company that was producing computer books for dummies, like Microsoft Word for Dummies. And there was a news item that they're starting at what they call the trade press, that they're going to move beyond computers and into other fields. And I said, man, chess for dummies, this is perfect. So I wrote them a query letter. They said, well, send us a sample chapter. I sent them a sample chapter, and I didn't hear back. But I was talking to my wife's uncle, and he says, "Oh, I know somebody who knows somebody there. Why don't I introduce you?" So he did, and he introduced me to this woman who talked to somebody there and set up an in-person meeting. I don't think I ever would have gotten this without that inside meeting. So sometimes it's who you know that helps you in life. So make contacts, get networks, get build people that know who you are and know what you can do. And then they will help you in life. And do that for others. Be there for others. This is another valuable lesson in life. And so then after the meeting, they gave me a contract. So then I wrote Chess for Dummies. And then that another company in London called and said, would you write? They produced the Bibles of certain things, like the Bartender's Bible. So they had a whole series of books called blah 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 the Bible. And so how about the Chess Bible? Would I write that? Yes, I'll write that. And so Chess for Dummies was so popular, they asked me to write another book about chess openings. So I wrote Chess Openings for Dummies. So this opened up a lot of opportunities for me. And, now I go to a bookstore in Prague and I can see a translation of one of my books. And it gives you a pretty good feeling to see the chess player's Bible in Hungarian. I
Mm-hmm.
can't express how cool that is. But yeah, so I got into writing, and that was the other. I spent a good number of years just writing chess books, and that was a wonderful way, I thought. And it all depends a lot in publishing about where the distribution muscle. Now, the first publisher was a local company based in Fremont, and they were acquired by Hungry Minds, which was a European company, and they in turn were acquired by Wiley Brothers. Wiley Brothers is famous for textbooks. They produce textbooks for on serious subjects to be taught to serious students, and but they have an enormous distribution muscle. So the first time I saw Chess for Dummies in an airport bookstore was amazing. And, so I could just go to San Francisco airport and go to their bookstore, which I usually would do, and I saw my book. That's amazing. But that really wasn't me. That was Wiley Brothers did that. So, uh, don't get too cocky and too arrogant about yourself, your skill set, because you're not in this alone. You need others to help you. And the Wiley Brothers distribution got that book everywhere. So I wrote it in 1995. It was published in 1996, and it's still selling 2021. So it was the smartest thing I ever did in chess. But I thank you for bringing up my dad because it's a warm feeling for me to be able to give the Arthur Award every year. And for a purpose that's consistent with the mission of the foundation. But it makes me feel good to give the award named after him.
Awesome. Yeah. You mentioned that Alexi Root is using the Arthur Award to do her research on this book about all the women's national champions of the United States,
Yes.
which I know a lot about history, and to be pretty perfectly honest, I could only name a few. So it's definitely something that's 100% needed. But the neat thing is, your father Arthur gave you the gift and the inspiration of chess, and by you
Yes.
naming the award and then giving this to Alexi Root, um, then who knows how many people are going to be inspired by her book once it comes out,
That's
and
that's how
and
it
is
works.
and so then
Yeah.
your father's gift is going to multiply, tenfold with these awards you're giving out, and that's really neat. That's really really awesome. Um,
I really, I hope you're right, and I suspect you're
I
right.
you know I really think so because, like I said, I have a passion for chess history, and there's just not enough information, especially going back um, before the 1980s on the women's
Yeah,
national champion players, and so this will be
yeah. Alexi won the national championship one year, but she was like a contemporary of mine. I
mhm.
knew her, so it was like, oh, oh yeah, there must have been some before her.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And I, like you, I knew
yeah,
a couple names. Never met them, didn't really know them, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to the book.
yeah, that's going to be awesome. What did you want to show us today, Jim? We got about 10 minutes left. By the way,
Oh, 10 minutes.
that was just a great, great lesson. I took so many notes. But the one thing I want to repeat just real fast for the kids is discover your passion and acquire the skill set so that you can pursue that passion. It's a real key bit of wisdom Jim just shared with us. There is a lot of wisdom in what he just said, but that one in particular, for you younger people out there, um, you're gonna discover different things that you're very passionate about. And the great thing about acquiring the skill set of your passion is it's easy to do because you enjoy it. You enjoy studying something that you're passionate about. All right, Jim. I just wanted to
Great,
repeat
great
that
point.
little bit of wisdom. And what do you want to show us?
Okay, let's start with the empty board. I was going to talk about the pieces and their powers. I don't think we have time for
Uh
that.
huh.
So let's just start with an empty chessboard.
Okay.
If you can
It's
display it.
empty.
Okay, how come I can't see it?
Uh,
Is there a way for me to? Oh, okay.
it's empty on my feed, and it's empty on the board behind you. Um,
Huh. I cannot see what you're seeing.
okay.
I wonder what I can
Well,
do.
it's definitely empty. If you want to call out squares or show me,
Okay. All right.
I can highlight and draw
What I
arrows.
will do. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'll leave it up to you.
Sure.
Let's do that.
If
Okay.
you want to use the one
Okay.
behind you too with a pointer, that's fine.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is try to visualize it in my head first.
Okay,
Okay.
that's a fun thing to do. Everybody should do that. Yeah.
Yes, I think visualization will get you a long way in chess. The ability to visualize is a muscle that you can strengthen just like you would a regular muscle by
Sure.
repetition. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. Um, so I'm picturing an empty chessboard in my mind. How many squares are there?
How many squares are on the chessboard? I'm gonna go to the YouTube and see what the answer is because I think I know the answer, but then there's something else. Um, but where did my YouTube go? I hope
I'm hearing.
I'm seeing a
Whoops.
lot of 64.
Okay. 64 is the answer that I was hearing in my ear, which is connected to the internet.
Uh huh.
And I was thinking that that is the right answer, but that isn't the right answer. Now, what do I mean by that? 64 squares. We have 8 rows, or 8 files, and 8 ranks.
Mm-hmm.
8 times 8 is what? 64.
64. Yeah.
So that's the correct answer. Except, now, can you do this for me? Um, Highlight the squares A8, B8, B7, and A7.
A8, B8, A7, and B7. Highlighted.
They're
Mm-hmm.
highlighted. What does that look like to you?
Certainly looks like a square to me, Jim.
It looks like a square. Okay. So there's more than 64 squares on a chessboard.
Sure.
We just don't think of it that way.
There's
Look at the whole chessboard. What do you see?
the
The boundaries of a chessboard are what?
the whole
What
chessboard.
geometric?
8 by 8 would be a square.
It's a square
Yeah.
itself. So we've already found two more squares than 64. So it's 64 plus 1 plus 2. You could keep going. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the geometry of the chessboard. Now, in that square that's highlighted, A8, B8, A7, B7. If you put a chess piece in there, can it touch every square? Let's start with the king. Can you put a king on A8?
Mm-hmm.
Can it touch every square? Every square? Every square in that square?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's put the queen on. Can the queen touch every square in that square?
Yes.
Yes, of course. Okay, let's put a bishop on. Can the bishop touch every square in that square?
No.
No. Holy smokes. So when we talk about the pieces and the powers, and we don't have time to get into this, but I had a whole lecture about that. You know, color matters in chess.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter about color. It doesn't matter about this color of your skin, but it matters about certain pieces. And it matters in a way that the bishop can own this white. It's A8 is what color square?
A light square.
White. It's a light
Mm-hmm.
square. So you put the bishop on the light square, it can never travel to a dark square. So the most it can cover is half of the chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
So its mobility is nowhere near what the queen's is. Now the king can only move one square at a time. So the king's a different kind of piece. We can't lose our kings. We lose the game,
Mm-hmm.
but we lose our kings. But the queen can cover the entire chessboard, not just this small square, but the 64 squares.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to all. The bishop can only get to half of them. So the queen's a lot more powerful. Okay, let's put the rook on next.
And what square would you like me to place the rook, Jim?
A8.
A8. Okay. It's there.
Can it touch all the squares in the square?
It cannot.
The rook?
The rook cannot. Well, I mean, it could, not in... Yes, it could.
Not
If,
in one
not
move.
in one move.
Not-
You got me there. Yeah.
No, but that's a really good point. That's one of the things. Like the rook can go to B8 or A7,
Uh-huh.
but it can in one move. But it can't get to B7 in one move. So the rook has power, more power than the bishop, but it doesn't have as much power as the queen.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just like taking a tiny fraction of the chessboard. We're learning this. In this one square within the 64 squares, we have 4 squares in one square, and we're just seeing how much more powerful the queen is than the rook, how much more powerful the queen and rook are from the bishop.
Mm-hmm. So,
The bishop
again,
only
what,
goes
what Jim's showing us is that, of course, it's obvious if you've played chess that the queen can reach all 4 squares in one move. But the interesting thing here is, why is a queen worth 9 points? Why is a rook worth 5 points? Well, a rook's worth 5 points. It's not as much as the queen because it can reach all 4 of those squares in 2 moves. And the bishop isn't worth as much as the rook because it can never reach all 4 of those squares. So
and
that's fascinating.
That's just those 4
Just
squares.
those 4.
And if we unhighlight those squares, you take the same pieces, the queen, the bishop, and rook from A8. Put them one by one. So let's start with the queen. Put the queen there.
Yep.
And if you can, count the number of squares the queen can reach in one move.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and highlight them. We've got 7 on the file. Then we have 7 more on the big diagonal because it is the big diagonal.
Yeah.
And then we've got 7 more on the
Seven,
rank.
seven, seven. Sounds
So
like 21 squares.
21. Yeah. Blackjack.
Okay. Let's take the queen off, put the rook on.
Okay, we'll put the rook on.
How many squares can the rook
And this
take?
is one of the things I love best about chess. There's a little bit of trivia here, and the rook can go to 14 squares. But something I discovered that I thought was really fascinating a long time ago was that we could put that rook anywhere, and it's still just going to 14 squares.
I'm really glad that you say this is the power of. We'll talk about centralization in a
Uh huh.
bit because what you just talked about was centralization.
Mm-hmm.
And let's put the bishop there.
Okay.
We'll get back to that if we have time.
Sure.
But let's put the bishop there and count the number of squares it can cover.
And only 7.
7.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's take that bishop and put it on d5.
Okay. It's there.
Now, how many squares can it cover now?
Now this is interesting, see, because it can still do those original 7, right? Well, slightly different set. We add a8, but subtract d5, so it's still 7. But the other diagonal is not quite through the center. So here, whoops, here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 13. 13 squares.
So in the corner, it could cover 7,
Mm-hmm.
and in the center, it can cover 13. So what I'm trying to say is a piece's power is tied to its mobility. A bishop in the center is stronger than a bishop in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take the bishop off and put the rook on d5.
Okay. Put the rook on d5.
Now, if I remember correctly, we said it could cover 14 squares.
Yeah.
Now on d5, how many squares can it cover?
Still 14.
Still 14. So the rook is the exception to the rule. We want to centralize our pieces because they're more mobile in the center and they're stronger in the center than they are on the sides of the boards, except for the rook.
Mm-hmm.
The rook doesn't need to be centralized. It's as strong as it is wherever it is. So that's a key thing to remember about the rooks. You do not need to centralize the rooks, but the bishops, the queen, all of those other pieces become more powerful
Mm-hmm.
if you centralize them. Okay, so let's go back to putting a piece on a8, and let's pick the knight.
Okay.
Now we have the square b8, a8, a7, b7.
Mm-hmm.
How many squares can the knight take? Cover, sorry.
Just the one it's on. Just the one it's occupying.
Yeah. It can't move.
Mhm.
If we shrink the chessboard to that, the knight can't move.
Yeah.
All right, let's put it on d5.
Okay.
How many squares can it move to now?
So we've got 4 to the left, and then 4 more on the right side. So we've got 8 total. 8 total.
Wow.
A sphere of influence.
That sphere of influence, I'm glad you used that sphere because it kind of looks like a circle in my head. It kind of looks like a circle. We're talking about the geometry of the chessboard. We're talking about squares, so now we're talking about a circle. You think of the knight, and the other thing we talked about color. If the knight is on d5, can it move to another light square?
Not in one move.
Not in one move.
It's going to land on a dark
only move
square.
to a dark.
Yeah.
It has to move to a dark square. If it's on a dark square, it has to move to a light square. So color does matter in chess. The powers of the pieces depend. If you take a bishop on a light square, it can't get to a dark square. Put a bishop on a dark square, can't get to a light square. If you put a knight on a light square, it must move to a dark square. If you put a knight on a dark square, it must move to a light square. So these are the things about the powers of the pieces that you can learn from just looking at the chessboard, putting just one piece on it and learn. And so now I'd like you to clear the board again, because we're running out of time. And I'm just going to say, let's highlight the 8th rank and the 7th rank.
Okay, so the 8th rank. And the 7th rank. Got it.
Okay. Is that a square?
It is not. It is a rectangle.
It is not. It's a rectangle. So these are when you're taught geometry, they seem like abstract concepts, but when you apply them to a chess game, they really become more important or more useful
Mm-hmm.
to think in these terms. And so let's highlight the 6th rank and the 5th rank now.
Do you want me to leave
And
the 8th and 7th highlighted?
I want you to shrink it to the D file.
And just
So just the A to D.
okay.
But now we have 4 squares in all directions. 4 chess squares in
Uh-huh.
all directions. And have we created another square?
We have.
Okay. So now this is really important because we want to think in terms of what pieces can influence the localized areas of chess. Because if we think of just the chessboard and the 64 squares on it, we might be seeing the forest and not paying attention to the trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's localized to an area of the chessboard where the action is, where your opponent's king is, and where your pieces are threatening that king. Focus in on that square or that circle or that rectangle. Put your focus on the only squares that matter. And your powers of concentration will lead you to discover moves that you would have missed thinking about the entire chessboard. But only do this when you're attacking your opponent or when your opponent is attacking your king. Because otherwise, you have to think of the whole 64
Mm-hmm.
squares. When you start, you better be looking at all the squares. In the middle game, you better be looking at all the squares. But when you're focused in trying to find a combination to deliver checkmate, you can narrow your focus. Focus only on that. And know that the knights are really going to move in a circle. So you don't have to calculate knight to d7, knight to e8, knight to, because that gets complicated and confusing. But if you can visualize the circle that the knight can move in, you can visualize that the bishop can't move to dark squares. So just don't consider dark squares. But the rook can move, but it has limitations too. The rook moves in rectangles and squares. But the queen is the most powerful piece, can move anywhere. Whoa. But the one thing that the queen can't do is move like a knight.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out in chess combinations, really the most powerful attacks often involve the queen and the knight. Queen and bishop can form a battery and be powerful. Queen and rook can form a battery and be powerful. But the queen and knight have a special arrangement, a special dynamic between the two of them, because the only thing the queen can't do is move like a knight. So the knight and the queen are powerful attackers. A lot of the beautiful checkmates that you find are sacrifice a rook, sacrifice a bishop, and use the queen and knight to deliver checkmate. Because there's all sorts of chess mating patterns that the queen and knight can perform. The rook and bishop have some mating patterns, but not as many. The rook and knight have some mating patterns, but not as many. So this is the thing, to think about the pieces and their powers, and their power is based on their mobility. The more mobile the piece is, the more powerful it is. But when you focus on a specific area of the board where the action is, where you're attacking the king, all of a sudden you think about what's different between the pieces. What piece can be dropped in on a particular square? Can I get my knight to h6 to check the king on g8? And if my queen is on f6, guess what? The king has no squares, the king is checkmated. But how do I get my knight to h6? I can move it to g4 first, then h6. Well, how do I get it to g4? g4 is covered by the bishop. Ah, play rook takes bishop. Oh, the bishop's gone. I can play my knight to g6, g4. Now I'm threatening knight h6 mate. Oh, now I'm in business. But I never would have thought about rook takes bishop
Mm-hmm.
because the rook is more powerful than the bishop. But now I do because I see the mating patterns. And once the mating patterns are in your head and you can visualize them in the short area of action where the action is, then you think, how do I get there? I can see it in that local little sphere of influence. Back up, how do I get there? And you'll and able to create combinations that you only dreamed of or you only read about in books. You will create them. And people will say, well, you didn't create it because it was played in 1913 by Capablanca against blah, blah, blah. Who cares? You created it.
Mm-hmm.
It's new to you. Created it. That is the aha moment we're looking for when we're chess players. When you see something and you go, aha, I can get my knight to h6. I can deliver checkmate. Wow, that's a great feeling. So I don't want to run over time, Chris. You've been very wonderful to me. You've given me a lot of opportunity to speak about my foundation
Uh-huh.
and about what you
And before we go, let me just say, chess players who are here. First of all, if you thought maybe this was a basic beginner lesson, then I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to try and repeat some of this with your eyes closed or no vision of the chessboard. Is square g6 a light or dark square? Can you tell me that without looking at a chessboard? If so, once you get good at that, then try placing a knight on the chessboard in your mind and try moving the knight the fastest path to from one square to another. If you get good at that, try doing some of the checkmates. You can have your mother, your brother, anybody sitting with the chessboard, and you can call out and try and do a king and rook checkmate against their lone king without looking at the chessboard.
that's a great idea, a great training mechanism. Move in your head, move a knight from A1 to H8
Mm-hmm.
in your head. And pretty soon your powers of visualization will improve. And if I can give you one piece of advice, build your ability to visualize
It's so important.
without
It's so
sight of.
important because these days, Jim, um, a lot of the young people are so talented tactically because they can use these tactic trainers that you didn't have when you were 15, or and they can do so many puzzles so quickly that it's the best tactically trained generation we've ever had in chess. But there's
Very true.
one spot that they're lagging in general, and that is when you were learning chess, you read my system, and at a certain point, you probably stopped moving all the pieces on the chessboard and just started reading and seeing it in your head. And this current generation, with all the great content on YouTube and all the tactics trainers that they can use, it's all visual right in front of them. They aren't visualizing in their head as much between moves. Um, all the older players who learn from books, at a certain point, you didn't have a chessboard handy, and there would be maybe a diagram or two per page, and you would visualize all the moves in between those two diagrams. Nowadays, you guys
This
see
is
it
so
all.
important,
So
Chris.
practice what Jim just showed you. It will fill in this little gap. You have all the other advantages because you can use the tactics trainers. You have all the information available to you anytime you want to watch. But practice your visualization, and you're going to be head and shoulders above everybody else your age in chess.
Let me say one more thing
Mm-hmm.
about that, Chris, because when I was a freshman in high school, we played in the what was called the Western Mass Connecticut Valley Championship. So if you won your league, you would go to that tournament. And you played all the teams that had won their leagues, and we had always finished last. My sophomore year, we finished tied for third, and my junior year, we won it. And my senior year, I played the rest of the chess team, including the alternate. So I was playing four boards simultaneously, blindfolded, without sight of the
Wow.
board. So I could play multiple games blindfolded, where I could not. I had to visualize the games. I could do four of them when I was 18, I guess, something like that. And this was all a product of building my visualization. Could I do that when I was 15? No. But by visualizing and strengthening my ability to visualize, I didn't need a chessboard. And I could drive to a tournament with another expert chess player, and we would drive there and we would be playing a blindfold game. He would say E4, I'd say E6, D4, D5. Yeah, and we would just say the moves to each other and we would play. Of course, I wasn't driving. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if that was really a good thing to do,
Hmm.
but that's what we did. So this is the thing that I want to stress because tactics win most of the games at a certain level, absolutely. But you don't get a chess puzzle to solve that has a tactical solution when you sit down at the board. You have to play moves and you have to visualize ahead, predict your opponent's moves. And the stronger you can see them, the more powerful you are in visualizing the various positions that aren't on the board now, but might be on the board in the future, the better choices you will make. It's an incredible increase in your chess playing ability and performance. So kudos to you for pointing that out, Chris.
Absolutely. Well, I'm just taking notes on everything you're teaching, and then the other thing too, ladies and gentlemen, is not only do I take notes, but everybody's welcome to rewatch. Everybody's welcome to rewatch because there is a lot of great knowledge. Jim, I'm going to let you go so you can get your steps in. And Jim is a very calculating individual. He actually calculates and makes sure he's getting enough exercise, which is also very important. And so, yeah, we want to let him go and get his steps in. And I want to let you guys go, but remind you that I will be back tomorrow at 12:30 Pacific time for what is this? Day 4 of the June edition of the summer chess camp.
One,
Sure.
one, one last thing,
Uh-huh.
Chris, if I have time. My website is eadefoundation.org, and you can see the videos that I have produced. They're not chess lessons, they're interviews on the YouTube channel Eade Foundation.
It's a
So just do a search for Eade
fantastic. It's
Foundation.
and you might even see me on a couple of those videos. Jim's foundation is all about community, and so his video series is wonderful because everybody else is showing you strategies and tactics, and Jim's showing you the community. And there's power. There's power in the chess community. A lot of it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, check out Jim's webpage, eadefoundation.org, and search for the Eade Foundation on YouTube and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. See you tomorrow.